just lying here on the floor. Cold towels, my feet against the door. How long have I been in this space? Arms over eyes, help me retrace. How did I become the doormat here? Memories spinning around my head seem pretty cavalier. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's in motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me a warning thinking I'm the one to blame. From my heart has made it pretty clear. Little by little you take control. It's a little uncivil how your game's in motion. And I don't even notice that I'm playing your game. Till you leave me a warning thinking I'm the one to
You want to make your fantasy sports league more than a fantasy? Hold my baby. Mike! Then you need Trophy Smack.
It's the #1 store for fantasy and tournament trophies, belts, draft boards, loser awards, and other ridiculous products. Click the link and get free shipping.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for some Saturday night action for the WSSR Roasted Gens Cup Series, Season 6, race number 5 here tonight. Last week, the drivers got to test their skills in Japan at the Twin Ring Motegi Grand Prix course. We got to see a first-time winner of Aaron Smith II. Well, from Japan to Music City out of Nashville, Tennessee, the drivers get set for that of the Nashville Super Speedway. The concrete is going to be a madhouse, and we can't wait to give you the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me is Trevor Earhart. And Trevor, it's good to have you back after missing last week, but man, heading back to oval racing.
Yeah, missed the excitement of turning left and right last week. little short excursion for me, but we're back tonight. The concrete, a little over a mile in length, Nashville Super Speedway. Should be a fun race tonight. Same tire wear going to be very important for these guys, but cannot wait to see what they put on for us as we get ready to head into qualifying.
As drivers just got done with practice, qualifying going to be a big thing to watch out for. Track position could be a key, and Trevor and I, we were talking about coming into this race. This track going to be very unique on the fact that it's called the Super Speedway, but it could be a one-lane course for a lot of these drivers, so qualifying could be a big factor here.
Yeah, the preferred lane around here is going to be the bottom, pretty much all the way around the racetrack. You can get away with running the high side a little bit in 1 and 2, try to get a better run off, but we'll see a lot of these guys just wrapping that yellow line all the way around. So qualifying that track position, Sam, like you said, it's going to be huge.
Well, drivers getting themselves onto the course, getting themselves ready. A little bit of news from that of practice, though. Fastest driver from practice going to be that of Larry Yingling and that of the 67 machine, with Ryan Bird in the 49 and Brandon Colley in the 1 being your top 3 from practice. Qualifying, though, drivers getting their warm-up set up as here comes the 04 of Thomas Walter, getting ready for his first lap as he heads down into turn numbers 3 and 4 to set up for this time. But already on the outside lane here, Trevor, looks like the 04 already trying to build up that speed.
Yeah, trying to get a really good run out of 3 and 4 to the line. We'll see if for these guys, if they feel like the first lap's going to be the quickest, or if the second lap after they get a little bit of heat into the tires will be the quicker one. Looks like for Thomas electing to use a little bit higher of a line, try to get a good exit, but a little bit of a wiggle for himself out of turn number 2.
And drivers have to be careful of the exit of these corners. There has been a lot of tightness building up, so drivers got to be careful. That little bit of wiggle, though, going to be costing time for this first lap for Thomas Walter. So we'll see what the second lap is going to bring him, as first laps tick in Ryan Bird, who was the second fastest during that practice, going to be the fastest currently, a 30.062 second time for that of the 49. Let's see what Thomas Walter can put down as a 04, a much smoother exit at turn 2.
Yeah, much smoother exit. Needs to pick up about 6/10 though if he wants to have anything for what Ryan Bird laid down. We're in a 30.6 his last lap, but this should be his quick lap as he comes out of turn number 4. Looks really smooth out of 4 coming to the line, and for Thomas, it's going to bump him up to that of about 8th position for Thomas. So a really good second lap for himself.
A very good time for himself, but taking the top of the board, no longer Ryan Bird. It's going to be his teammate from Late Apex Racing, Tom Senchak, taking the top of the board for the 8 machine. Chad, that of Wilkes, who had a great run last week at that of Twin Ring Motegi's Grand Prix course. The 12 going to be in 3rd place. Christopher Norris as well, bouncing into the top 5 for a quick moment, then gets bounced out as Brandon Colley now up to 2nd. But no one has beat out the 8 just yet. But here's a driver that's going to try his darndest across the line for his last lap. It's going to be that of Larry Yingling, just coming up shy, 3rd place for fastest for practice. But for that of the 67, still a quick time. And Trevor, as these times continue to clock in, top 3 all within 1/10 of one another.
Yeah, all the top 3 really close, and it was that way in practice too. I believe our top 4 or 5 were all within 1/10 of each other. So just showing how close these drivers are to one another is Steven Stippian comes out to start his first lap in qualifying to see if he can get that number 81 machine up near the front.
He's going to be trying his best. Steven Stippian, this is going to be his first lap, already hugging much closer to that yellow line than what we saw from that of Thomas Walter earlier in qualifying. These drivers are given up 5 minutes to put down their fastest time and only 2 laps to do so. It's the 81 through 3 and 4 in his Dale Earnhardt Elvis Budweiser machine. Going to be seeing how he can come across the line here. Again, lap number 1 for that of Steven Stippian. Where will he lie on the board as the time clocks in? Looks to be for this 81, hoping that he doesn't find any more incidents, as that first lap not validated. And yeah, the second lap's not going to be validated either. He's going to be starting the back half of the field for that of Steven Stippian.
A big mistake there for Stippian. Not sure where he got that first incident point on his first lap, but right there you just saw the tightness creep in. Out of turn number 2, gets into the outside wall, and for that 81 machine, no time set for himself, and he's going to have a lot of work to do ahead of him once this race gets going.
Well, it looks to be all the other drivers not going to be putting out a time, so gives us a little bit of a moment to shout out some of the amazing sponsors here at the WSSR, starting off with the Roasted Gems Cup Series. Roasted Gems being the title sponsor. If you'd like to go find yourself some premium coffee, go head on over to roastedgems.com. They've got new flavors that come in almost on a monthly rotation, and they've already got a widespread. Go use the promo code WSSR for 5% off on your purchase. As well, if you want to go customize your celebrations, as if you're looking for that of group activities, or if you're heading for sports or esports and you need yourself a championship belt, trophy, ring, or even that of a wall smack, go on head over to trophysmack.com and remember to use the promo code WSSR Cup, and when you go to purchase, it is a 10% off on any item at that of the trophysmack.com. Big thanks to both of those main sponsors. Qualifying is done, and it's time for us to check on who is proud of where their son is today, as it's been for last season and this season. Qualifying sponsored by Collie's mom, and disappointment reigns today as her son will not get the pole award, but will be starting in the front row as Tom Sinchek going to be getting first place in the pole position. Second going to be going to that of Brandon Collie. Larry Yingling's going to be in third. Ryan Bird going to be in fourth. Chad Wilkes going to be in fifth. With that of Brian Johnson in that is sixth. Seventh goes to Zach Hall. Vincent Sora eighth. Ninth goes to Christopher Norris. And Dakota Moniz is going to be in that of 10th position.
Aaron Kralik will roll off in 11th with Sean McCafferty to his outside in 12th. Brad Delph in 13th with Thomas Walter in 14th. Tyler Dangler in 15th with Richard Wolsifer in 16th. Bob Skinner will roll off 17th with Andy Reeves to his outside in 18th. Corey Innes in 19th, and Jonathan Cogswell will round out our top 20.
21st position is going to be that of James Kaufman, with Cedric Hunter going to be in that of 22nd position. And for these other drivers, going to be Steven Stimpian in 24th and 25th. Going to be for James Hackworth Jr. Final four deciding not to put in the time. Some because they were invalidated, like we saw from Steven Stimpian. Others taking the option route of staying in the back. And like we said, track position could be so key in tonight's race here at the Nashville Superspeedway. 150 laps this evening, no fast repair, 4 extra sets of tires in pit road, and like we've had for this season, removed from last season, no stage yellow or stage points to be grabbed. Trevor, that could be a big factor here tonight on drivers trying to get their learning lessons.
That could be a very big factor. Not going to have that stage break to really kind of get a reset, learn what you did wrong in the stage to save some tires. So it's going to be up to these guys from the beginning to take care of their equipment, because we're racing on concrete tonight, Sam, and the concrete very aggressive on how it wears the tires out on these vehicles. So drivers definitely going to have to be careful out there.
Definitely will be, as the 8 machine and the rest of the field get themselves rolling here tonight. Tom Sinchek looking for a good run here this evening for himself. This 8 machine getting his first pole of the season, as the other drivers have gotten poles this season. Vincent Sora has 2 poles, and Brandon Colley has 1, and Aaron Smith second got his pole last week at 20 Motsegi. Also want to clarify, we made a statement last week, but it needs to be retracted. The fact that these drivers, for making the playoffs, it is not a win and you're in system, it is a point your way in. All these drivers forced to point their way in, which means these drivers that are deeper in the field need to be hitting their marks perfectly, as only the top 16 drivers make it into the playoffs. We're still early in the regular season. We're closing in on the halfway marker, but the drivers recognize it is time to start hitting your mark. That's exactly what our front 2 are hoping for here tonight. Tom Sinchek, Brandon Colley, Larry Yingling, Ryan Bird, Chad Wilkes going to be your top 5, with that of Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, Vincent Sora, Christopher Norris, Dakota Moniz into the restart zone, and we are green here in Music City for the Nashville Superspeedway. Down into turn number 1, the drivers still going to be stacked side by side as they enter turn 1.
And Colley going with a pretty aggressive dive early on into turn number 1, trying to get side by side with the Ida Sinchek, just not going to quite be able to hold it there to his outside, but really good run down the back straightaway. He a little bit of a push down into turn number 3 and 4, but trying to see if he can find anything to get around the 8, lead a lap, but just not going to have anything for him. Sinchek's going to lead lap 1.
Jack going to lead lap number 1 for the 8 machine, comes across the line, and they're already going to be getting in line with one another. Saw it in that first lap. Drivers were trying to get in line. A lot of squeezing and almost contact for a few of these drivers as they're trying different aspects and already seeing different ways you want to exit out of the corner. Some sticking low to the yellow line, others letting their car drift up. So that's going to be a learning lesson of who is going to be saving those tires the most here at Concrete, the cheese grater of tires, as the drivers come across that of lap number 2 being done. Still the 8 machine leading the way as up front, top 6 stay on where they qualified.
Yeah, everybody just got in line now. Everybody's just kind of riding out, filling out the first couple of laps, how the car is going to start to handle as these tires start to wear down. Wait for the driver in front of you to make a mistake. Aaron Kralik with a little bit of look to the inside of the 38 of Christopher Norris, but he's going to hold on back up front. The 12 of Chad Wilkes trying to look to the inside of the 49 of Ryan Bird. Just couldn't quite get the car to stick for himself and has to fall back in line.
Yeah, was not able to find the opening that he was hoping for. Thought he could poke the nose, wasn't there for himself. Also a report, we were scheduled to have 25 cars on track. Only 24 were able to take the grid. Cedric Hunter having some difficulties. We'll see if that of the 13 get there out on track, as Christopher Norris currently running in 9th place. Behind him, Eric Kralik, a driver that I'm curious to see how tonight's race is going to go for this 0-1, who has sneaky speed here at Nashville Super Speedway. Let's see if he can try to march his way forward and maybe get himself a top 5 finish here tonight.
Yeah, he's had a couple of looks at Christopher Norris, just hasn't been able to keep that car stuck to the bottom, getting a little tight on him on corner exit. Losing a little bit of time here, might come under pressure from the 5 of Dakota Moniz, but see if he can get a good run down the back straightaway to help hold off that position from him, as this is going to be a battle for 9th, 10th, and 11th going into turn number 3.
As behind them as well, going to be that of Sean McCafferty. And McCafferty, one of the drivers that really struggled last week, and now trying to put the pressure on Dakota Moniz as the 17 almost below the 5. They're going to be the cutoff marker as Dakota cuts off any opportunity to get into that inside quarter panel. As we right on board 17 last week, had to leave the race early. Too many incident points, was too wrecked up, and very disappointed on the way that he was running last week, personally for himself. But here tonight, looking for a top 10 finish to try to rebound, is the 17.
Yeah, again, it comes back to road course racing. Some drivers love it, some drivers very much dislike it. For Sean last week, just wasn't comfortable around twin ring Motegi GP, but here tonight, off to a good start. Right where he, I think, down one spot from where he qualified, is up in front of him. Aaron Kralik gets around the 38 of Christopher Norris. McCafferty just riding there in line, just nice and calm, letting this race play out.
Able to make those passes is going to be those drivers moving their way forward. Here is going to be Zach Hall watching Vincent Sora as well as Chad Wilkes trying to find their way in any motion to be heading forward. These long train of drivers going to be having to figure out how do you save tires while also trying to be aggressive, as a lot of these machines struggling to make any type of movement, except for a few drivers in the back that did not qualify well that are starting to make those surge forward. But I mean, Trevor, this is going to be something that we talk about, what we knew coming into tonight. The fact that this race could be a lot of single file racing, as Chad Wilkes going to be moving himself back into 5th place, right in front of that of Ryan Bird, who's fallen 2 positions now for the 49.
Yeah, it's just part of racing around here at Nashville. It is known to be one groove, and you have to wait for the car in front of you to either fall off or make a mistake. And if you make that mistake, it could really cost you a couple of positions, as you can get trained by the drivers on the inside. Ryan Bird really starting to struggle in that 49 machine, under pressure now from the 15 of Vincent Sora, and this could cost him not only this position to Sora, but if Zach Hall and Aaron Kralik close in enough, he could lose those 2 positions as well, but able to defend right now from the 15 of Vincent Sora.
Easily can. You're seeing some drivers getting stacked up on top of one another. Here's going to be Richard Wolsifer, who's hoping for any type of show here tonight after an accidental situation last week, getting back out on course and taking out the leader of Vincent Sora last week at the Motegi Grand Prix course. Here tonight, hoping for a good top 15 finish, and that's honestly what this 56 is looking for this evening. Just a good finish. It's been a tough start to the season for that of Richard Wolsifer.
Yeah, shown flashes of speed in that 56 machine, just hasn't got the finishes, been caught up in some incidents, but looking strong as he got around the 04 of Thomas Walter. Walter a little bit tight at turn number 4, going to lose that spot to Wolfsburg. Now chance to lose that spot as well to Jonathan Cogswell, who goes way high in turn 1 and 2, but trying to get that good run off as Wolfsburg gets a good run on the 5 of Dakota Moniz. They're going to be side by side down the back straightaway. We're going to be 3 wide down the back straightaway.
We are 3 wide, and it's going to be the 81 throwing it down, waiting for someone else to give up the position. Won't do so as they keep their foot in the throttle. It's going to be Steven Stimpian almost taking 3 spots in one corner. They're still going to be 3 wide behind, and it's Thomas Walter getting bounced around like a ping pong ball, but he holds steady in the center, as that could have been a bad one there, Trevor, but they somehow hold on. And that's those rare moments here at Nashville Superspeedway where drivers that are being aggressive make some big moves. Those that are being passive get attacked. And that was a scary moment, but they survive. As now we look at the 19 machine of Tyler Dangler, which kind of an alliance being built up. Tyler Dangler, Richard Wolsifer teaming up for the rest of this season. Both drivers kind of lost their teammates coming into this season, deciding, hey, let's group up, let's see how this season goes. And right now, the 56 and the 19, both inside of our top 20. A good run so far for the both of them.
Yeah, slowly working their way forward. Tyler qualified back there in the back of the field, slowly working his way up. Or actually down 2 positions, I'm sorry, from where he qualified, but trying to make those positions back. Richard Wolfsfer up 3 spots from where he qualified. So those two trying to work their way back through the field, and it's going to be Dangler now trying to attack the 27 of Cogswell down the front straightaway. He's going to be there. They're going to be side by side down in turn number 1.
Jonathan Cogswell needing a good run here tonight, coming in tied with 16th in points. And for that, Jonathan Cogswell, best finish so far this season, 10th place at Texas, as he's side by side with the 19 machine for 16th position. We've seen Cogswell be up front a few times. I'm thinking back to that Texas race where he had his best finish when he was up in the top 10 for the majority of that run. It was the tire wear that hurt this 27. We'll see if he's recovered in that motion. Driver a little bit deeper in the field than I'm expecting, up 2 spots for that of Rich Jameson. Currently, right now, started back in 23rd position, one of those drivers that decided not to put in a qualifying time. It seems like for this 86, it's learn, survive, make the push. It's still a very long race. We're only 15 laps in of 150.
They still got a long way to go in this race for Jameson to make up those positions as they continue to battle up in front of them. Thomas Walter trying to gain a couple of those positions back as now he's re-attacking the 19 of Tyler Dangler down the front straightaway. The 7 as well of Corey Ennis just trying to follow suit, figure out who he's going to go with as those two continue to battle. It's a battle for 17th and 18th position down in turn number 1.
Corey Ennis came in last week for his debut race, came away with that of a 17th place finish at that of the Grand Prix course. The driver that's also trying to have a good run right now in a heated battle and a gaggle of cars that just can't get away from one another. A lot of stacking up, an accordion effect, allowing the 7 and the 04 to make a little bit of contact as Ennis going to be on that outside bumper. And oh boy, that could have been a bad one. And Trevor, I think we're starting to already see it. That tightness that you talked about during qualifying on the exit of turn 4, it is showing up now.
Yeah, starting to show up. It looks like Ennis there a little loose. Thomas Walter a little tight. And they met in the middle and almost caused an incident, but they both keep it straight. Ennis with a little bit of wall contact, but doing a good job. But they're still battling ahead of him as Wolsifer now starting to start a little bit in that 56 as he gets into the outside wall with the tightness out of turn number 4.
Rich Wolsifer has been struggling, as you see our camera showing off. That is the driver who just got out on track, Cedric Hunter, who is just trying to get back up to speed. Didn't put any qualifying time in or practice, so 13 very much under practiced here tonight, and as well 14 laps down. Not a good showing, but at least getting some points, which is massive to be grabbed. As right now, Rich Wolsifer seeing that of Corey Ennis as well as that of Tyler Dangler right behind him as they come out of turn number 4. This has been the struggle spot for both of the drivers of the 7 and the 56 as they make it through the exit of turn 4. I mean, this back half of the field, always a joy to watch as drivers getting aggressive as that of Bob Skinner makes the move, but up front, starting to still see our top 3 on top of one another, but it's Brian Johnson in 3rd place that is looking like he is hunting to get up front.
Yeah, Brian Johnson started 5th, made up those 2 positions, run down Sinchek and Brandon Cawley. Cawley's had a couple of looks as well at Tom Sinchek, just hasn't been able to complete that pass. He's tried it on the outside, tried it on the inside, hasn't been able to get around that 8 machine, and that allowed Brian Johnson to close in on him. And these 3 really kind of pulled away from 4th place Larry Yingling by about that of a second over our 4th place machine as Vincent Soares made the pass on Chad Wilkes to move Vincent Soares up to 5th as well.
Yeah, there's really a lot of jostling at this point of the race. 20 laps in, about to be 21. And they come across the line here of 150. Again, no stage yellows will be thrown. This race could go from green flag to that of checkered if no yellow flag is thrown, as here's the battle for that of 5th place. Chad Wilkes, Vincent Sorsor had it for an instant and then lost it as well in a blink of an eye as they continue to stay side by side. Heading down into turn number 3, as Sorsor has been dive bombing his way forward, but it's the X in the corner here where the 12's been ramping it back up, not able to defend that go around. And now for the 12, he's got to be careful because Zach Hall, Eric Kralik, they are making the move forward.
Absolutely working their way up, and a little bit of contact between the 12 and the 15. Going into turn number 3, kind of upset. The 12 machine had to give that position up to Vincent Sora. Sora getting those elbows out, trying to gain some positions and not lose a lot of time to our race leaders. And now Brandon Colley Zach Hall in the 42 trying to find a way around that 12 machine and bring the 01 of Aaron Kralik along with him.
Kralik could be a threat for a top 5 run here tonight. He's attached to a pretty good driver who's figured out his issues the last couple of weeks for the 42. It's been a wheel disconnection issue. We thought back in North Wilkesboro, maybe it was a connection just to the internet issue. Learned, diagnosed, figured out that it was a wheel issue. I was trying to stay connected, and then the issue continued on into last week. That cost them more time in issues, but it has been remedied. Now the 42 able to actually race here tonight instead of just hoping that maybe his wheel will stay connected.
Yeah, it's got to be a big relief for Zach Hall to get that issue sorted out, get that back out there and start racing again. We saw him Tuesday night in the truck series, leading full send, kind of running the back at Pocono, and then at the end work his way up to get a top 10, just testing out those wheel issues. And here tonight doing a great job running inside our top 10, trying to close in on that 12 machine, but just getting back in the rhythm of it, of having a wheel that works consistently for him.
A driver that has had enough. Thomas Walter, we saw being a ping pong ball earlier in the race, being shoved through the field and going backwards, has just pulled into pits road, and the 04 has called it a night. You hate to see it for a driver that qualified in 14th. Looked like he had a good top 15 run here this evening. Maybe not going to be the sign for himself. But, drivers on the other foot, Steven Stimpian started all the way back in last place, has climbed his way up into 10th now, and then right behind him, a driver that's doing the opposite. Started in 4th, falling down to 11th place is Ryan Bird. This is crazy to think that 2 drivers, completely different stories, and right around one another at this 10th place position.
Yeah, and for Bird, he was quick in practice as well, Sam, but just maybe it was that one lap pace that Bird was really showing off. And here tonight, once the races got going here, lap 26, that 49 machine's really fallen off a lot. Stimpian, who, we expect to see up front, had that issue in qualifying. Neither one of his laps counted, worked his way now up into the top 10. So just a difference in 2 cars. One quick on the long run, one quick over the short run. And it's really starting to show right now.
Talking about how Zach runs in other leagues that we've covered here on Freaking Fast Broadcasting. Same thing for that of Steven Stimpian, who also runs on that Wednesday nights for the Wicked Racing League here on Freaking Fast Broadcasting. And when those drivers took the same car to that of Nashville Superspeedway, it was under the lights for that race and slightly different setup than they were using. But Steven Stimpian said, hey, I prefer the default setup that iRacing gives us, and that's exactly what they're running here tonight. It wasn't a custom one that they ran on Wednesday, and so for this 81, in a much more comfortable position, but that qualifying factor, the fact that he struggled in qualifying, that set him back. Now, being that of a total of 5.5 seconds off for a leader, this could be the biggest thing from Steven Stimpian, from having a chance to win tonight, and now just hoping for a top 5 finish.
Yeah, it's going to come down to, unless he gets a caution, it's probably going to come down to some pit strategy for the 81 to get inside our top 5. If he gets a caution, it could be a whole other story for him, have a shot at getting up there to the leaders, but you just have to wait and see how it plays out for himself. But just having a great opening stint for himself, working his way from the back up to the top 10.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining us now on your Saturday night on Freaking Fast Broadcasting, we're giving you coverage of the WSSR Road to Gems Cup Series here at Nashville Superspeedway. This is race number 5 of the regular season, and for the regular season, there are a total of 11 races. So we are technically just outside of our halfway zone for these drivers. And right now we are seeing some great racing for a lot of them. As here's ninth place runner of Christopher Norris on track, kind of in his own little space. 1 second in front of him is that Chad Wilkes, who's been going backwards, and then behind him is the driver on the move of the 81. But Wilkes heading backwards right now. I mean, Trevor, certainly this Monster Energy drink machine wanting to stay up front, but at this current moment, qualified 5th has only dropped 3 positions. Not a terrible situation 31 laps in.
No, not a terrible position for himself at all. Just might have gone a little bit too hard, a little too early, so now just trying to take it easy, kind of fall into a nice comfortable position for himself. He's got a pretty good gap back to Christopher Norris, so can just kind of ride behind that of Aaron Kralik and kind of cool his tires down, take it a little bit easy, and see if he can save off a couple of positions here before green flag pit stops.
And we were just looking at up front, the battle of our top 3. Well, now it could be a battle of our top 4. 4th place runner, Larry Yingling, the original 2-time champ of the WSSR series back in the day. This 67 machine has caught up to Brandon Colley as well to that of Brian Johnson. At one moment, this 67 was almost 2 seconds back. He has climbed his way forward, running just as fast as our leader. And this is a scary situation, and as well trying to catch up, Vincent Sora in 5th place, who qualified in 8th position. He is up 3 spots and also trying to close in. But Trevor is riding on board with the 67. I mean, Gil, give us your thoughts on how this machine seems to be looking for these drivers, because from Larry's perspective, it seems like it's handling pretty steady at this time.
Yeah, looking good for him. Doesn't look like it's pushing too much on him out of the corner. Didn't have to put a lot of wheel input on corner exit to keep it out of the wall. Down here in 3-4 is going to be the real tell, as this is the tightest part for most drivers. And again, just a nice smooth exit for himself. Just can't quite find any room to get a run on the one of Brandon Colley, who's starting to fall back just a little bit. Got passed by Brian Johnson, but they haven't been able to run back down Tom Sinchek at all once Johnson got away. But you just see with Larry's hands just how smooth he is on the wheel and how comfortable he is right now in this car during this run.
Staying steady, hitting his marks, and right now looking good is that of the 67. And again, like I said, trying to find an opening is going to be the key here, as 15 is faster as these drivers continue to be kind of held up in a way. It's allowing the 15 to close in, as Tom Sinchek has gapped out to over 1 second to 2nd place of Brian P. Johnson, as we're 35 laps in. And this is where things can get interesting. We were told by that of Zach Hall, one of the drivers out there on track, who currently runs in 6th place, the fact that the fuel run is going to be around 72 to 75 laps. These drivers potentially could go, which are right around that halfway zone. Trevor, we're halfway through this fuel run. Now it's the curious thought. Do you come in at the make this a race a 1-stop, 2-stop, maybe in a 3-stop, due to the fact that we have Fortress that's in pit road to work with?
Yeah, it's going to be the interesting call here, because you can, like you said, make it up to almost halfway and make this a 1-stop race. The question is, are the tires going to hold up long enough for you to make it that far, or are you going to come in that of around lap 60, 65, somewhere in there to maybe preserve yourself a little bit of lap time and not give up a lot of time, just with how old the tires get. It could make it really interesting. Could turn this into a 2-stop, but we might see some guys like Steven Stimpy and Ryan Bird, Brad Delph, the guys down there in the back half of the top 10, try to just stretch this out and make this a 1-stop race to gain some time.
Who's going to go with the ultimate strategy call? And I think that also kind of adds to the factor of drivers. What are they trying to make some moves for? As a little bit of a scare in front of our leader, as driver into pit road, it's Richard Wolsifer, who just had a scare on the exit of turn 4, and looks like he was trying to come into pit road right in front of our leader, and luckily no contact was made. Richard Wolsifer, unplanned, maybe pit stop for himself, or could be, as other drivers have also made their stops, of that of Sean McCafferty, Jonathan Cogswell, and potentially could be more back markers thinking about pit stops here. Just that, 35 laps in and a little bit over that.
Yeah, interesting call to come in that early, but maybe just feeling like, hey, we took too much out of the tire. Come down, get fresh tires, go back out there. I mean, it's going to be about that of a 1.5 seconds, but they're going to be a little bit quicker than the leaders. So to make up some time, as Brian Johnson goes way high in turn number 2, and he's going to get passed by the one of Brandon Colley. And here comes the 67 of Larry Yingling now to the inside of the 28 down into turn number 3. So Johnson now starting to struggle, and then here comes the closing Vincent Sora as well, trying to see if he can make this position, pass for position.
Engling's going to be right now. I mean, due to the fact that he's lingering side by side, it's allowed the 15 to stay here. Let's go 3 wide. A stack 3 wide down into turn number 1. Vincent Sora not going to be patient, forcing the issue. Backs out of it. A smart choice by the 15. But he saw an opportunity. A slow exit out of 4. Thought it was his time to make the pass, and now it's the teammates of Brian Johnson, Vincent Sora going down in turn number 3. As they continue to battle side by side, Larry Yingling, Brandon Colley able to make the pass. We'll see if they can run down Tom Sinchek as Vincent Sora now clears one of our biggest movers up the day, our second biggest mover, I should say, Brian Johnson, who got up to second. And that was a great run for this 28, but now he's seeing that hurt on these tires.
You can really see he's starting to struggle. It's starting to get really tight on him out of the corner, and he and Larry almost had a moment out of 4 that allowed Vincent Sora to make that 3 wide move as they made a little bit of contact with Larry getting tight as well, being on that bottom line. And I give Sora credit, saw the opportunity, took it, and then made the smart racing decision, backed out of it in turn number 1, and then got that position done in turn later on in that lap, so move him up now into 4th position. But Sora slowly starting to close in on these guys, Sam, and that 15 machine. I don't think you can ever count them out no matter what track we go to.
I honestly don't think we can, as another driver is coming to pit road. That is James Coffin in the 25. That leaves us with a total of 19 drivers that have yet to come into pit road or started on pit road, as Cedric Hunter, again, started on pit road after missing the starting grid. That's why he is 17 laps down for the 13. But these drivers up front, I mean, Brandon Colley, he is starting to make the charge forward. He has cut this lead down by 3/10 and even more at this time. And those that a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are on the move to catch up to Tom Sinchek. And now things get a little bit more interesting, because if this race turns in to a 2-stop, by the time they catch them, it might be time for these drivers to come into pit road.
Yeah, at the rate they're catching them, I mean, it should be in the next 5 or 6 laps if they keep closing in at this rate. And by then, we might see our leaders come down pit road. Be a little bit early, I think, but with everybody else in the back half of the field starting to come in and take tires, it might bring our leaders down pit road a little bit earlier than maybe they intended. And that last time by, though, Tom Sinchek turned in the fastest lap of our top 3. It was Vincent Sora, though, in our top 5 that was the fastest car on track that last time by.
Vincent Sora is looking very smooth right now for the 15 machine, which, again, it didn't qualify well, qualified 8th, and even during practice, the 15 did look like he was really going to outshine everyone here tonight, just based off the raw speed of some of the drivers we were seeing. But it looks like race pace starting to show, and that's exactly why the 15 machine is a 2-time champ. And it's always cool to see when champions are able to race around one another. Larry Yingling, the first 2-time champ of the WSSR, Vincent Sora, winner of the last 2 championships, as Larry was off on hiatus as he stepped away from racing. Came back for this season, 67, still trying to get under the reins of this next-gen car, as the other drivers, they've already had a full season running in this machine.
Yeah, Larry coming back this season, first time in the next-gen car for himself, so doing a really good job getting acclimated to this race car. Now under pressure from the 15 of Vincent Sora, and Sam, this is a battle that I think we're going to see a lot throughout the season as Larry gets more and more comfortable with these cars. It's going to be these two battling each other side by side, but Vincent Sora makes that pass very easy before we ever exit turn number 4 to move Sora up to 3rd, and now he's got to run down the 1 of Brandon Colley once he clears him, see if he can run down the 8 of Tom Sinchek.
I think that's been the fun thing, talking to the admins and some of the other drivers. They've all said, you know, Larry Yingling, it might take him a few, won't our regular season really get acclimated fully to this machine, but watch out for the playoffs, because the playoffs are not going to be a usual bracket elimination style in the playoffs. It's going to be a chase style playoff system. The drivers are going to run for that of a 5-lap system, and I think that's going to be the fun aspect. 5 races, who can be the most consistent to win themselves a championship for season 6. And season 6 championship, drivers going to be getting themselves a trophy smack ring like they've had for the past 2 seasons. Vincent Sora wants to get himself his 3rd ring, and if you would like to get yourself a ring or that of a championship belt, or even just a trophy or a wall smack, go head over to TrophySmack.com to go get your trophy today, as right now you can go do it and you can design anything you want with a full picture and more. If you're looking to use a company logo, a meme, or just celebrate an amazing time, go over to thatoftроphysmack.com and use the promo code WSSR Cup as that is going to be 10% off on any purchase. Right now, going to be the drivers still cycling through their pit stops. There's going to be that of the 25 machine of James Kaufman. Another driver that came in about a couple of laps ago was going to be that of the 4 machine of Andy Reeves, who's going to be moving forward, as well as a few others. But the mixture of lap traffic on fresh rubber here, Trevor, mixing things up as we're 50 laps in.
Yeah, this could cause issues. The closing rate between the new tires and the old tires could cause some issues for our leaders. And we're seeing that a little bit as these guys start dicing their way through here. Brian Johnson lost a little bit of time to the 42 of Zach Hall when the 56 of Wolsifer went around him and almost allowed the 42 to get by that of Brian Johnson for 5th position. But now those two are going to be single file out in turn number 1 and see if Zach Hall can get a pass done on this 28 machine.
With the lap cars trying to make these passes, they're trying to make the passes as soon as possible. And some of the drivers, fresh rubber, getting a little bit overzealous at moments and have actually clobbered the wall a couple of times. They've got to be careful not to break anything with their machines. We've talked about it throughout this season and a lot of the other series that we cover with the next gen car. The fact that these vehicles are built like tanks, they can take some contact, but you don't want to get too much into the wall. Otherwise, you can find yourself with a complete destroyed and grilled machine that's going to force you into pit road. As that Brandon Colley is dealing with some issues. He almost got himself into the outside wall. And as well, this battle that's going on of Zach Hall and that of Johnson, great battling for 5th place, but it's the one machine I'm heavily concerned about here, Trevor, as Vincent Sora puts on the pressure.
Yeah, it's starting to look like those tires are going away for the one of Brandon Colley. Got tight last time by out of 4, almost gave up that position in turn number 1, and again right here just doesn't look comfortable in the center of the corner. Has to get out of the throttle a little bit longer than that of Vincent Sora, and Sora's going to make that pass down into turn number 1. So Sora now up to 2nd, up 6 spots from where he started, and now he's the one that gets to try to chase down the 8 of Tom Sinchek, who's just been untouchable since the drop of the green flag.
Got the lead, got the pole, got to how important track position was going to be. And as well, that fresh air has been fabulous to watch as the 8 machine continues to keep himself up front. More drivers trickling into pit road. It'll be Bob Skinner in the 82 comes into pit road. Still 17 drivers needing to come in and get service done, as this is around the window if you're going to turn this race into a 2-stop. But a lot of our leaders, they're aiming for the 1-stop, which, Trevor, at this time, I mean, if you're going for the 1-stop, if you don't come to pit road soon, you have to fully commit to going to that lap 76.
Yeah, I think if you don't come in between now and about lap 60, you're sticking to that one-stop strategy. We'll have to see how that's going to work out time-wise compared to these guys that are trying to 2-stop, and see if they can hold their track position, or if they're going to lose a little bit of time and have to race their way back up into these positions that they might give up with people on those 2-stops. But it looks like that battle right now between Brian Johnson, Zach Hall, and Aaron Kralik starting to heat up down the back straightaway as Kralik has closed back in on those two after giving up a little bit of time, but closed back in on that battle for 5th place.
He closes in on the battle for 5th as 0-1 continues his march going forward. He's up 4 positions from where he qualified, back in 11th place, and Kralik hoping to get himself into a top 5 run. I mean, this 0-1 machine has shown some brilliance at some tracks. He did a great job over the winter series that these drivers put on from their season 5 to season 6 break, from that of December to that of February. And the 0-1 found himself in a victory lane a couple of times during that winter series. Now, they were running the 87 Cup car, so a very different machine than what they're running here tonight as Bob Skinner tries to make the pass. Going to be hurting the exit of the 0-1. But this 0-1 machine trying to get his best finish here this season, his best one so far, 5th place at Texas. Can he tie that or even beat it, as he's currently in 7th?
Yeah, you see how much time he lost to Bob Skinner there when he wasn't able to track out as far as he wanted out of turn number 4 when Skinner went around him. Lost that of about 3 or 4 car lengths to the 42 of Zach Hall, but going to try to close it back in here in 3 and 4, but just gets tight as he dove it in there really deep. And it's going to lose all that time that he gained back. But Zach Hall, Brian Johnson, they've got to work their way around now the 19 of Tyler Dangler, who's on fresh tires, as well as letting Bob Skinner go by. But Skinner's cleared everybody. It's going to be the slow car of Tyler Dangler on the inside, and that's going to force Aaron Kralik way wide in turn number 2, and he's going to lose more time to that 42 and 28.
This is poor timing, and that's kind of the aspect of the luck that you're looking for, of hitting those markers when you're coming up to either fast drivers behind you or slow drivers in front. when you can get around them cleanly without losing too much time. As that of Tyler Dangler missing a pit road. He was trying to come in that time, and he's going to have to go around once again. The 19 already has gone 1 lap down. He might be going 2 to maybe potentially 3 laps down with that type of a mistake, as other drivers figuring out when they want to come into pit road. And Trevor, with these drivers being out for 59 laps, almost 60 laps for themselves, pit road here is going to be an interesting call for a lot of them.
Yeah, and it's kind of a difficult pit road to get onto. It's semi-flat. The corners are, especially at the bottom, but there's a little bit of a transition bank between the racing surface and the access road there, and it can really upset these cars, especially on old tires, and really easy to miss pit entry with how quickly it comes up. So saw it right there with the 19 of Tyler Dangler. It could happen to our leaders. We talk about it every week. You cannot afford to make mistakes on pit road when you're making your pit stops, as it could cost you a chance at winning it. And with the way this race is going, Sam, if this goes green the whole way, it could be really detrimental for somebody.
Going to be an extremely detrimental moment. Well, we are going to step aside here tonight, but you won't miss a thing as drivers making the charge. Who can turn this race into a one-stop? Well, we got that of 16 drivers trying their best to do so, as you are watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series here at Nashville Superspeedway on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We'll be back in just a few moments. We'll see you on the other side.
think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we are coming to the halfway marker here tonight for the Nashville Super Speedway for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. Drama-filled has hit us in the middle of the pit cycle as we hit the halfway marker. Some drivers pitting 5 laps before the halfway marker, being that of Tom Sinchek, who is dominating this race. Well, maybe no longer. Comes out of pit road, spins out, and what should become the new leader once this pit cycle goes through, it's the driver that's already won so many times this season, Vincent Sora, looking confident as he is now having himself over that of a 6-second gap lead over Brian Johnson. But the big thing for that of Vincent Sora is the fact that he's going to be finding himself having slightly older tires than some of the drivers that have already come to pit road. So the advantage of who can make it, also on fuel, could be an issue for some of these drivers, as Larry Yingling, Zach Hall, that Ryan Bird, Rich Jameson still yet coming to pit road. There comes the 42 machine. Pit road for Zach Hall.
Yeah, the 67, the 42, Aaron Kralik as well in the 01, Christopher Norris, Steven Stimpian all making their pit stops this time by. Should make it good for them to reach on fuel. The question is going to be, is this 15 machine going to be able to make it on fuel? But Sam, with the gap that he's going to have over that of, looks like James Hackworth Jr. and Brandon Cawley, might be able to save a little bit of fuel in that 15 machine to hopefully make it to the end for himself. But back to the 8 of Tom Sinchek. I mean, we talked about it right before we went to commercial break, making mistakes. We thought it was going to be getting into pit road, but getting out of pit road where we saw the mistake from the 8 of Tom Sinchek.
And this isn't the first time that we've seen mistakes strike this 8 machine. It's just the luck is not there here this season. He thought he was going to win back at that of Daytona to start the season off, came away in that of third. We thought he was going to find a way to win at Texas. Didn't happen. Thought maybe North Wilkesboro was going to happen. Wasn't able to find the momentum and luck, and it just continues to be the spree. It even happened a lot last season until he won at Michigan last season for this 8. But will he find that luck moving forward? He's got to find the swing. But looking at these drivers now, I'm curious to see. There is a large gap from first to second place, which is now Brandon Cawley, which is almost that up to 5 seconds. A massive lead But man, Vincent Sora has been so dominant at a lot of these racetracks where it just seems like he knows how to protect the tires, he knows how to just stay patient, and that's been the key for him to get in a victory lane as much as he has in these past seasons.
Yeah, he's been really consistent with saving tires, being quick when it matters the most, and not making mistakes on those pit stops. I don't think we've seen Vincent Sora make a mistake on a green flag pit stop since we started covering these guys. And that just goes to show, I mean, that's why he's a two-time defending champion in this series right now, is he just doesn't make those mistakes. And right now, worked his way up from that of 8th place where he qualified. Sam almost got to that of Tom Sinchek, was closing in on him before Sinchek made those pit stops. So that 15 machine very fast tonight. And I don't think, unless there's a caution, anybody's really going to have anything to touch him now that he's in this clean air.
A few drivers that almost spread out some yellows have already called it a night for themselves, as Vincent Sora did have a scare before coming into pit road when we were just going in for a commercial break. Contact between the 15 and the 17 of that of Sean McCafferty, who has called it a night for the 17 machine, as well as another driver called it a night, that of Tyler Dangler, not able to finish out this race. He was so many laps down after pit road mistakes. He just is going to be calling it an evening. But with all the drivers that have trickled away, we are now down to just that of 13 drivers on the lead lap. And we could be down here, Trevor, to maybe even that of 9 to 8 drivers on the lead lap, based on the gaps that we're seeing right now and the differential from our leader to everyone else, that still is going to have to make a secondary pit stop, unlike that of about 8 drivers that stuck it to the halfway zone.
Yeah, I think our top, that of 8, maybe 9, with Brad Delph, all drivers that are going to go for that one-stop strategy. Everybody else on a 2-stop, maybe a 3-stop. So we really well could end up with that of 8, 9 cars on the lead lap, depending on, one, how fast Vincent Sora, these lap times that he's going to put down, and two, just how all these pit stops cycle through. So anything is possible with Steven Stempian on board with him up to 8th position now in that 81 machine after he started all the way in the back after getting in the wall on both his qualifying laps, slowly working his way forward. But he's got about a 6-second gap before he even catches the 8 of Tom Sinchek.
It's just, these gaps are pretty massive in between one another, but there is the factor of Larry Yingling. The Larry Yingling 67 machine, a driver back in 4th place currently, but a driver that is on the freshest of tires as well with that of Zach Hall. But Zach Hall's so far behind, I don't think he's going to be a true factor. But the 67 now has made the pass over that of Brandon Colley, now up to 3rd. Trevor, he's down to 5 seconds. Ryan Johnson is trying to catch up to his team in Vincent Sora. Our top 3 could close into one another just based on that tire wear factor of Vincent Sora pitting earlier than those other 2 drivers.
Yeah, Johnson's got about a 1-lap advantage over Vincent Sora. Larry Ewing with a 4-lap, almost essentially a 5-lap advantage over that of the 15 machine. That gap, Sam, still continuing to close. Is 3/10 quicker was Brian Johnson that last time by than Vincent Sora. 5/10 quicker was Larry Yingling over Vincent Sora. So, I mean, the gap is coming down, and it's the question of, is Vincent Sora saving fuel to make it to the end, or are these guys just pushing it that hard to try to run that 15 machine down?
Well, we know for sure Larry Yingling is going to be good on fuel. That of Brian Johnson as well as Vincent Sora are going to be questionable for themselves if they're going to be good on fuel for themselves, just based on the fact that they need to save just slightly. Same for Brandon Colley. For Zach Hall, Aaron Krolick, those as well as Larry Yingling, 3 drivers are confident on fuel, and I think that's why they're able to be this aggressive, trying to move forward as 67 makes the pass by that of Ryan Bird, who is in 15th position, and Ryan Bird, not the run that he wanted, currently in 15th place, and now being 1 lap down and qualified in 4th, hoping for a better run. Well, as we're on that of lap 85, come to that of lap 86, I do want to give a major shout out to the 2 primary sponsors here at the WSSR Cup Series. The title sponsor going to be that of Roasted Gems Coffee. Roasted Gems Coffee is one of the more premium coffees that you can go get today online. Remember to use the promo code WSSR for 5% off, getting your day started right. And as well, big thanks to Trophy Smack. TrophySmack.com is the place to go if you want to get yourself some quality custom championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Go head over to TrophySmack.com to go get yourself some great trophies. Remember to use the promo code WSSR CUP, C-U-P. all one word together for that of 10% off on any purchase. As the pass for that a second place is on. Well, Trevor, maybe this race isn't over just yet because Larry Yingling has climbed up. He's caught up to that of Ryan Johnson, and he's less than 2 seconds away from Vincent Sora.
Yeah, I've been looking at the lap times, and Larry's been about 7/10 quicker than that of Vincent Sora. I mean, I think that's showing that Sora's trying to save fuel. So that way he's good to make it to the end, but he's just allowing Larry and Brian Johnson to close in on him. That time about that of 8/10 quicker. The 67 over the 15 machine, Sam, and if he continues at this pace, I mean, he's going to be there in the next 3 laps battling for the lead.
Yeah, this is incredible speed to see from Larry Yingling, who we were talking about the fact that he was looking fast. He was the fastest during practice. He was a little bit hesitant on trying to make the push forward during that first stint, but could it have been a swappage? Instead of trying to save fuel on the last stint, he was saving fuel on this first stint to make sure he had enough fuel to make it to the end. As Vincent Sora gets passed by lap traffic, the gap is now less than a half a second. Larry Yingling sees our leader right in front of him, and Vincent Sora looking like a sitting duck at this moment, as Larry Yingling, who was racing just a couple of weeks ago, getting his first taste of the Gen 7 Cup car, and now on the push in the prowl to take the lead here for his WSSR Season 6. This is incredible to see with the two-time champs side by side with one another.
It's the battle of the two-time champs, and it's not even going to be a battle as as Vincent Sora just lays over and gives that position to the 67 machine. Now the question is, can Larry kind of pull a gap, manage his tires, pull a gap to the 15 of Vincent Sora? That's going to make it hard for that 15 to get back to him once he feels he's saved enough fuel. That's going to be the question here. And as Brian Johnson, as he's closed in as well, is he going to be able to get by the 15 machine and make it even harder for Vincent Sora to get back to Larry Yingling?
Well, Larry's now putting himself in a very questionable spot. Going to go forcing himself 3 wide to get by lap cars. Going to be by the 7, by the 12. And Vincent Sora not as confident to force the issue. Here comes Ryan Bird, who's on fresh rubber, who's going to be pushing and trying to woo that of second and third to move forward. And it just seems to be maybe Larry was pushing a little bit too aggressive because Brian Johnson is keeping up on the pace as our leader, as Vincent Sora once again lays over our top 3, all within 3/10, and also in this gaggle of cars. Anything bad could happen. We even saw it last week. Lap traffic took out Vincent Sora from a chance for him to win last week at the Twin Ring Motegi Grand Prix. Right now, lap traffic slow, faster than our leaders. You don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah, everybody on kind of fresher tires around Vincent Sora. I mean, he's got Ryan Bird, the 27, the Cogswell, the 12 there as well, the 5 of Dakota Moniz. I mean, all these cars are going to end up getting by that 15 machine if he's not careful. That's just more cars that he's got to work around, more dirty air that he's got to be in before he can catch back up to the 28 to 67. And this could be really detrimental to Vincent Sora as this run continues.
And now this is the battle for 5th place. Tom Sinchek, who when this pit cycle first initially started, all the way back that of 20 laps ago, this 8 machine was dominating. Now, contact between himself and Zach Hall at the exit of turn 2. The 8 went from battling for the lead to now battling for that of 5th, as Eric Kralik gets a great view of the madness here. And we can add another driver to the DNF column. Richard Wolsifer has now parked it, called it a night for the 56.
They're still going to be side by side of the turn number 4 down the front straightaway. Sinchek trying to make up the time that he lost with that pit road exit spin that he had, but just hasn't been able to clear the 42 of Zach Hall. Going to do it now here in the turn number 1. See if Zach goes for the crossover move. Just can't quite get back to the inside of the 8 machine to see if he can get a better run down the back straightaway, but he's just going to have to follow in line now as Tom Sinchek moves his way up into that of 6th position.
Up into 6th, then now going to be seeing how you recover to move forward as they stay in line for now. Also starting to see our leaders trying to close in on one another as this current moment, 12 drivers on the lead lap, about to be down to just 11 as that of Corey Ennis going to be the driver in question to go a lap down as there's a 28 machine of Brian Johnson being passed by Ryan Bird, also to be in trouble here from Jonathan Cogswell, trying to get themselves by with fresh rubber and trying to get themselves back to just 1 lap down. As we have ran 96 laps so far, clean green. We've had 1 green flag pit stop. A couple of drivers have come to pit road 2 times. It is down to just this. Our leaders, top 2, within a second of one another, which at one moment, just 10 laps ago, Trevor, the gap was over 5 seconds between first and second.
Yeah, it's been such an interesting turn of events in those last 10 to 15 laps. I mean, Vincent Sora had that of almost a 6-second lead over that of Larry Yingling, Brian Johnson, and now he's down to he's almost 3 seconds, Sam, behind that of Larry Yingling just since he's been passed. So just a questionable call from the 15. I mean, we were praising him about how well he's been doing under green flag pit conditions, how consistent he's been, but maybe just a bad pit strategy call from that 15 machine here tonight.
We can't even call it a blunder just yet, as we still have plenty of racing to go here tonight. But a very odd situation to see these drivers. We started off with 24 taking the green. Cedric Hunter hopped in a few laps late. That gives a total of 25 drivers on track at one moment. We are now down to 11 drivers on the lead lap. Could be down to less than 10 here in just that of about 10 to 20 laps, as Christopher Norris and that of Rich Jameson could be the next drivers inside of Larry Yingling, as Yingling has got a nice buffer of black cars in between himself and second place. As we're coming to that of lap 100. Still 1/3 of this race to go, as Zach Hall, as well as starting to see that of Tom Sinchek swapping back and forth. They're now catching up to Brandon Colley. And as this race is getting crazy, I mean, what a wild situation, Trevor. We just went from, this race seems like we're set in stone, but pit stop showing it could change everything.
It very well changed everything. I mean, Sinchek was just dominant for those first 70 laps, made that mistake. Then we just figured Vincent Sora was going to walk away with this race, but a questionable pit call from him has dropped him back to almost 5 seconds back of the race lead, and in danger of being caught by Brandon Colley, who's closing in on him at a rate of about 3 to 4 tenths a lap. And that's something that also brings Zach Hall and Tom Sinchek into that little battle there if Vincent Sora keeps falling back at this rate.
And still Vincent Sora and also Brian Johnson second place, questioning can they make it on fuel for themselves. Are those two drivers, as Johnson continuing to keep himself in a peaking distance of Larry Yingling, who's in the middle of lap traffic, and as the leader, this is a worst case scenario to find yourself. You do not want to be around other drivers. You'd much more prefer to be in that clean air. But I mean, in some way, this is allowing the 67 to get some type of draft, but the draft compared to dirty air to the corners, Trevor, I mean, doesn't seem pretty equal here at Nashville.
Now it's going to hurt him a little bit. Cogswell gives a little bit of bump to the back of Corey Ennis there in turn number 4. As they closed in on one another, it's going to hurt Larry's tires a little bit, as it's going to make that car tighter as he's in that dirty air with 49 of Ryan Bird. But, just kind of found that comfort zone, got around the 7 of Ennis after a couple laps of following him, but that allowed the 49 of Ryan Bird to get by. So if he can get back by Bird, have that clean air, I think that'll be an advantage for him. But just being patient, working his way through this traffic right now.
Working through the traffic, waiting on when to pounce, and Brandon Colley has made pass for third place. Vincent Sora has now fallen to fourth and about to be in the clutches of 5th and 6th and maybe even 7th place here, as the 15 still in save mode. But I think he might be turning on the switch here quickly, because he cannot afford to lose any more positions if he wants to be the points leader after tonight's race. Originally coming into tonight, it was Cedric Hunter that was the points leader. Zach Hall second in points, and then it was Vincent Sora in third. And for Zach Hall, I mean, being ahead of the 15, just going to break out and make that lead just a little bit bigger heading into next week's race, which next week doesn't get any easier than tonight. We're going to IRP Lucas Oil Raceway, short track racing. That one, Trevor, is going to be a madhouse next week.
It's going to be a very entertaining race. I think we're going to see a lot of aggression, a lot of beat-up race cars, a lot of maybe upset drivers with one another after next week. But we'll have to wait and see when we get there. But Lucas Oil, always one of those tracks where you go to it and you just, any finish there, you feel like it is a win for yourself, depending on how your night goes.
And more difficult tracks and trying out new places to race at. We go back to Twin Ring Motegi in 2 weeks as the drivers get to test out on April Fool's Day, April 1st. It is not going to be a fool to the drivers, as they are going to be testing out the oval course, which is Japan's idea of a Darlington course. It is, if you look on the top view, almost identical the way that they were built on tracks, but a little bit less banking. So the drivers can handle that course, as that is going to be in 2 weeks. And then they head to the Tricky Triangle in 3 weeks at Pocono. Then it's going to be Talladega, the Roval, and finishing out the regular season, going to be another short track at the USA Super Speedway. I mean, at that of the USA Speedway And I got to say, Trevor, we were talking about the schedule coming into this broadcast. It is not an easy schedule for any of these drivers, with Talladega also marched in the middle of that schedule.
No, not at all. 2 short tracks, then you go the interesting track at Twin Ring Motegi, which, like you said, is like Darlington, but a little bit slower. You can't carry the speed there as you can at Darlington. Then, Talladega, Pocono in there as well. I mean, it's just an interesting mix of tracks for these drivers leading into the playoffs, and can really shake things up depending on how things play out at those racetracks.
Again, when you make the playoffs, top 16 in points make it through. So you got to find some consistency at tracks that, for some of these drivers, they've never ran this Gen 7 Cup car at all. As here's the battle going on for third place. Zach Hall able to make the passes. They've also gotten by that of Brandon Colley. The 42 on the move. But currently now going to be 5 seconds off of our top 2 that are still keeping it close with one another. But Vincent Sora not giving up. There is still speed in that 15. Again, we believe he was saving fuel. That's why he backed off so far as he did. He's going to be trying to go for a top 3 finish, but the battle for the lead, there's no longer lap cars in between them. It is Larry Yingling, Brian Johnson right now, 1 and 2.
And Johnson's been slowly closing in on that of Larry Yingling, this time by 2/10 quicker than that of our race leader. So Brian just closing that gap in ever so little, lap by lap. But the question, Sam, I mean, he pitted just 1 lap later than that of Vincent Sora. We've seen how much Sora has dropped off. Brian just been aggressive since he came back out on track. Is he going to have the fuel to make it these next 40 laps or so in that 28 machine with the pace that he's been running?
Just trying to run as consistent as they can, but was there any mistake of maybe pushing a little bit too aggressive? Well, that last lap proving otherwise. Larry Yingling able to keep himself slightly faster than Brian Johnson as catch up to 11th position of Christopher Norris. About to be putting ourselves down to just 10 drivers on the lead lap. And looking at it, I believe 10 drivers on the lead lap might not last for very long either. We could be down to just 9 drivers on the lead lap with this race being over, as we're coming up to 40 laps to go here at Nashville. And now the question starts to loom. Fuel. Did drivers save enough for our top 2? As Larry Yingling, we believe, should be good on fuel. But as well, the questioning of for that Brian Johnson. He was pitted 1 lap after Vincent Sora, but he has not been as aggressive on saving fuel as the 15. Zach Hall should be also good on fuel, and also that of Aaron Kralik in 7th place. Everyone else in the question mark phase of where they're going to be, as that of Larry Yingling gets by Christopher Norris, who we're riding on board with, leaving us with 10 drivers on the lead lap. It kicked that back. Actually, Ryan Bird unlapped himself there.
Yeah, Bird unlapped himself, so still on the lead lap as he's on a little bit fresher tire. Actually, he's on the same tires as that of Larry Yingling. He's just been able to kind of drive away from that 67 machine, but I expect to see Bird kind of fall back into the clutches of our leaders. We know that 49 has kind of struggled here on the long run, but this lap car gives Larry a little bit of a breathing room to that of Brian Johnson, who was closing in, but now that 28 machine is starting to fall off just a little bit quicker than Larry that last time, but it was down to 2/10. Sam almost now back up to 6-7 tenths of a second gap between those two as these laps continue to tick away.
And driver back inside of the top 5, it is Tom Sinchek in that lead Apex Machines. We're right on board with Brandon Colley. That was 4th position. And Tom Sinchek, after his self spin coming out of pit road after his 1 and only green flag pit stop, he has been trying to go on a recovery run. But the driver that, I mean, for Tom, it's been a great run for him to try to recover, but he is one of the drivers that's in the most scary situation. He was one of the first drivers in our top 10 to come into pit road, so this 8 will be in a big question mark when we come down to 10 or even that of 12 laps to go if he has the fuel.
Yeah, pitted on lap 70, and then was followed on lap 71 by Vincent Sora. Brian Johnson came in on 72. I mean, that's going to be so tight, and I don't think Sinchek, has saved fuel at all compared to that of Vincent Sora. I mean, he's trying to recover from that spin, cycled out of the pits in 8th position, worked his way up to 5th. So doing a great job recovering from that spin. But the question is he going to have to come down for a splash of gas just to make it to the end, or is he going to attempt to just run it out and see what happens and let the cards lie where they are?
So many questions, and they will be answered here shortly. But for us, we're going to take our last commercial break as this chaos is settled for a quick moment. We're expecting it to ramp up in those final couple of laps. So we're going to step aside, side by side once again here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you for joining us on your Saturday evening. You're watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series here at the Nashville Super Speedway. We'll be back on just a few moments as you're watching these drivers roar around.
think I watched Josh 3 or 4 times before I ran the car. He killed them every race, and it was like stout fields, like good cars, big races, and I mean, he was unbeatable. And I was like, oh man, this is, like, I'm nervous. I was so nervous getting into the car full time this year after watching Josh win 3 or 4 races straight. These cars, they have a lot of horsepower now. They have over 500, and I think 5 years ago they didn't have 450. They're gonna be a handful to drive, but just don't overdrive them. Let the car do the work.
Well, hopefully you're still awake because it's been a good one so far. We're coming to that of 20 laps to go here tonight, and there's a driver that has been on the move. Welcome back to Freaking Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Trevor Earhart, as well as Robert Morey Jr. in the background running productions. You're watching the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series here at Nashville Super Speedway. And here's our biggest mover so far. Started all the way back in last place in the 81 in that of 8th position. Trevor kind of blowing our minds, showing that you can make passes here at Nashville.
Stimpy being one of the few drivers that has been really good working his way through the field, up 15 positions from where he qualified. Like you said, just made that mistake in qualifying, had to start dead last on the field, was aggressive in the first run, got through the green flag pit stops really cleanly, made up a couple more positions, and riding around here in eighth place. Makes a little bit of an adjustment there, but just see how calm and comfortable he is behind the wheel right now.
Another driver behind this 81 that's actually having a good day. That of Brad Delph, top 10 run for the 14, who has struggled in a lot of the leagues that we've covered. He has been struggling just to finish out these races, and it would be a great showing for himself as Steven Stympian continues to stay out there on track. Should be one of those drivers that's good on fuel. Same for that of this 14 machine. And the second biggest mover of the day is, oh no, Brad Delph into pit road, not confident on his pit stop and fuel. And this is going to make things a little bit more tricky here, Trevor, because for this, for the 14, he was one of the drivers that pitted around the same window as Brandon Colley, Jenna Johnson, and also that of Tom Sinchek. This is going to be one of those close runs, coming into pit road, topping off on fuel, maybe taking tires, and Brad Delph might be the sign that things could be even more interesting up front for the end of this race.
Yeah, interesting call there. Maybe just thinking, hey, I can come down and get 4 tires and make that time up that I'm going to lose on these guys who are going to stay out till the end. Maybe make up a couple positions on that of Stimpy and Aaron Kralik and the guys in front of him that we think are going to stay out. But this could be interesting, Sam. This might mean that some of our leaders like Sinchek, Colley, Vincent Sora might have to come down, and Brian Johnson might have to come down and make that second pit stop.
might have to make that second pit stop for themselves. 17 laps to go, and we were given the window of 72 to about 76 is the window that drivers could go on fuel. We saw some drivers pitting sooner than that, hoping that they could save a little bit of extra, but if you weren't able to make at least the halfway marker of lap 76, some of these drivers were in a very questionable spot of being able to make it to the end. Larry Yingling, our leader right now, did make it to the halfway marker. Same for that Zach Hall. Those are the two drivers I'm feeling the most confident they can make it to the end of this race. But for Johnson, Sinchek, who is at fourth, that of Brandon Colley, as well as Vincent Soren and Eric Kralik, all in a big question mark. Can they make it to the end of this race?
That's going to get interesting here. 16 to go. The laps continue to wind down, coming to 15 to go. On if those guys are going to make it, we know Vincent Sora, we noted on it heavily since those pit stops that he's been saving fuel as much as he can. I mean, fell back from a 6-second lead all the way down to 6th position, 10 seconds off the lead. So is he going to be able to make it without having to make that second pit stop, or is he still going to have to come in? Saying it's just questions, throughout the field on this pit strategy.
And while we're having those questions of fuel, we've also been having lap cars that have been pitting multiple times. Some drivers have pitted twice, others have pitted 3 times. Make sure they've got the right tires to make it to the end of this race, as some drivers just have not been feeling as confident, which has allowed there to be a lot of confusion on who is going to be passing you, who are you supposed to pass with those tire changes. But leading the way, Larry Yingling, a driver that is part of the history books of the WSSR when they were in their first 3 seasons. As 67 was one of the first 2-time champs, and he was dominant when racing. He was part of a hiatus when WSSR stepped away for a year and a half, then didn't come back until this season. He was gone for over that of around 2.5 years from WSSR, and now going to be finding himself potentially getting a win here tonight, which would be crazy. 4th start this season for the 67. We thought it was going to be maybe 8 races, maybe 9 races in, when he finally got himself fully acclimated with this car. But the strategy, drivers throwing away this race, it is now in the hands of Larry Yingling to win here tonight and to etch himself closer in the history books to catch up to Brian Johnson, as Larry is in the 3rd place position of most wins in WSSR history.
Yeah, has a really good chance. He's cut that gap back to Brian Johnson at about 0.6 of a second. I mean, it was down to 0.2 at one point, up to 8. Now kind of leveled itself back at about 0.6 of a second between Larry and Brian, as they've just kind of run away with this. Tom Sinchek back up to 3rd position after his spin during green flag pit stops, but he's 4.5 seconds back. Zach Hall, another 0.3 off of Tom Sinchek, as those two have been battling for 3rd and 4th for the last couple of laps. But right now, Sam, if this stays green, I think it's going to be a battle between these two, the 67 and the 28. And the question still looms, is if Brian Johnson has enough gas to even make it to the end of battle of the 67.
That is one of the bigger questions for himself. Tom Sinchek, again, was the first of everyone that's inside of our top 10 right now to come into pit road. Then the next lap was that Brian Johnson and Vincent Sora. Sora continues to just give up time on trying to make sure he's got enough fuel to make it. Johnson, on the other hand, has been trying to keep up with our leader. As you see, lap traffic trying to get themselves moving forward to unlap themselves, at least get 1 lap down, is the 7, who is currently 2. And it's on the charge, finally getting himself around. Now going to be just 1 lap down is the 7 machine. Ryan Bird, 10th position currently, trying to stay on the lead lap if possible in front of our leader, as we've got ourselves 9 laps to go, and we're now in that questionable zone. When or if these drivers can make it to the end, or will there be a caution potentially with some drivers getting irritated late in the race? That lack of focus could be another thing to watch out for.
Yeah, anything can happen. You got drivers coming in on fresher tires that have come down and made their 2nd, 3rd pit stops, trying to get back through the field to gain as much time as they can make some contact with some of these drivers on older tires, can spin somebody out. Tom Sinchek, Sam, down pit road from that of 3rd position, the 8 machine making his final pit stop. Not good on fuel for Tom Sinchek. So there goes the first domino. Now it's going to be Vincent Sora, Brian Johnson. When did they make their pit stop? Do they have to make that pit stop? That's the question. But Sinchek, the first one of our leaders that made that green flag pit stop, back down pit road again for the 2nd time.
The big thing for that Tom Sinchek, he was out there for 72 laps when he came into pit road, so that means that he just felt like he could not stretch it an extra 2 to 3 laps. For Brian Johnson, he's now got to figure out if he's been able to save up to 2 laps for himself. Same for Vincent Sora. I feel like Sora is going to be good on saving fuel just because of how aggressively he's been saving and being off the pace compared to the rest of the field. But it's Johnson that I'm very much concerned about, and other drivers that are going to be in the question mark zone. Also going to be that of Brandon Colley, who could be 1 lap off, but I think he might have been saving just for that 1 lap. As watching on board for Brian Johnson, the thing we're watching out for is the revs. Is he trying to clutch and save right here, Trevor, or is he not with 6 to go?
See, as he goes down here in 1 and 2, doesn't look like he's getting on the clutch to save fuel. Maybe feels like, hey, I've done what I needed to do, or I'm just going to, I know I have to make this pit stop. I'm going to try to pull a gap to the guys behind me as much as I can, the guys that are on the kind of the same strategy as I am. That way I can just come down and get my service done and come out ahead of them. But 28, definitely not looking like he's saving fuel here, Sam.
Fuel save is not engaged for the 28 machine. 5 laps to go. And again, Brian Johnson needed to save up to 2 to 3 laps of fuel if he was going to make it to the end. Save for Vincent Sora, who both came into pit road at the same time. Oh boy, where will these drivers lie at the end of this race? 5 laps to go. And honestly, a lot of these drivers, we were given the window of 72 to 75 laps. So if you were not saving at all, some of these drivers that even pitted and we thought were going to be good could be in a questionable spot, as we're on board with that of Vincent Sora. And Vincent is saving. You can see that clutch. He is clutching it in, seeing the revs drop all the way down. He is still in save mode.
Still in save mode. I mean, this might be the play, Sam. If he feels like no matter what lap they pit on, that they were going to be short on fuel, the 15 saving fuel might still have a shot at this if Larry runs out. Brian, Zach, Brandon, and Aaron all run out in front of him. I mean, this might be a great play from the 15 of Vincent Sora.
Brandon Colley going to be one of the drivers to watch out for. Aaron Kralik should be in a good spot as he pitted at the same time as Zach Hall and Larry Yingling. As we are on board with Larry Yingling, our leader. It doesn't seem like saving fuel is at all in the minds of the 67. 3 laps to go here tonight at Nashville Superspeedway, and this is the time for these drivers. We're in the no man's zone for that Brian Johnson and Vincent Sora. Will they run out of fuel, or are they good?
That's the question. Vincent Sora looking to the inside of the 01 of Aaron Kralik, but again, has to clutch it to save fuel in 3 and 4. That means he lost that chance to pass the 01 of Kralik, and this could be an issue for Sora as he tries to work his way up through the field, or to at least gain a couple of positions with him clutching. He just can't get the pass done. But Larry Yingling down the backstretch coming through 3 and 4 to get the white flag, Sam. I think he's going to be good to make it, as Brian Johnson's on a huge fuel save right now as he's falling back to almost 2 seconds from our race leader.
Brian Johnson is not looking confident as we're heading into that of a Roasted Gems Coffee white flag for Larry Yingling. He stepped away, thought maybe it was going to be an opportune chance for him to come back. He was pleaded by a lot of the drivers. Come back, be a threat, run for a championship. You're a 2-time champ. Vincent Sora's a 2-time champ. Who could get their 3rd ring? And for Larry Yingling, he had been searching for opportune times. He's been learning this car. It was all the way back in November 14th of 2020, back in season 3. 3 seasons later, here in Nashville, Larry Yingling wins here at season 6.
What a run from Larry Yingling. What a pit strategy call from that 67 machine. Pitted at the perfect time to make sure he had enough fuel to get to the end. Gets by that of Vincent Sora. Brian Johnson gets the win here tonight. First win of the season for himself. And man, what a run from him. Brian Johnson able to save enough to come home in second. Zach Hall gets up to 3rd place, and Vincent Sora, what if he had just waited a couple more laps to come down pit road for that 15 machine? Could have had a shot to win this, but it's going to end up in 5th position.
I know for Tom Senchek, this one is going to be a hard pill to swallow for that of the 8 machine. He was dominant. He was one of the fastest drivers all night long. He'll come away with 10th place. But Larry Yingling still has enough fuel. He's going to burn it down in the grass. And for the 67, the 3rd most winnish driver in WSSR history, he had 8 wins coming into tonight. Give him his 9th and his continuous streak of finishing in the top 10 every race he's ran continues on for himself. What a win for the 67, as we will be stepping aside. When we come back, it is going to be the post-race show, talking to the 67, the 28, and the Spotlight driver when we come back for our post-race show. We'll have fun with the smoke show, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show for the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series, race number 5 of the season here at that Nashville Super Speedway. What a run we got to see here tonight. We had 2 other drivers we thought were going to win. Turns out it was a driver that's still trying to get his hands here controlled with the Gen 7, and he gets it done here tonight. We bring in the 67 of Larry Yingling up in the booth. Larry, it is all the way back to that of November of 2020, when the last time you won here in the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series. Did you think it was only going to take you 4 races to get to victory lane, or is this a surprise for you?
It's really a surprise. The last 2 weeks made me kind of think a win would be. I'll have to look into one with how I've ran. But going into today, we did a practice or 2, and seemed like my long run pace was pretty good. And I was really just trying to mess with the brakes and figure out this is probably the most feeling I've had compared to the old Gen 6 car with how I used the brakes and get back on the gas. So it definitely felt confident entering this race.
I mean, Larry, we talked about it there toward the end of the race. The question on fuel with the laps that y'all pit on, some guys saving fuel instantly after the green flag pit stops. I mean, were you ever concerned uh, during that last run about fuel at all?
Somewhat. I know maybe 10, 15 laps before halfway, I looked at my fuel and noticed and realized I might be able to go at 75. Then when I think Tom pitted, I think lap 70, then a couple others, few laps after that, I definitely knew if I can just make 75, I have a shot. And I think maybe I was a lap to the good when I finished, and Brian told me he sputtered at the line. Come to the checkered. So for the most part, I was just trying to run the lap times Brian was running. And he made me think at the end he might have saved enough and come on a charge, but once you start backing off, I knew I just had to keep it clean.
That's exactly what you did, Larry. You kept it clean, kept it out of trouble. But something that was kind of nerve wracking for us of the booth. I don't know how nerve wracking it was for you in the car. Lap traffic, we saw it all surrounding you really for the majority of that last run. How was it trying to navigate the lap traffic and trying to make sure you kept your nose clean out of all that?
Pretty hectic at times. There was one time I had to go 3 wide, uh, and I think there was another time yeah, it was just chaotic at times, but for the most part, most of them were really respectful and give you room. And yeah, it was just I was just waiting for that yellow to come up, but luckily it never did.
No, it did not. You found yourself in victory lane. Larry, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Definitely shout out all my teammates this race: Zach Hall, Steven Stempion, Brandon Colley, Christopher Norris, Bob Skinner, and James Hackworth. And shout out to my sponsor, Muffin Sports Cards on Instagram. If you enjoy the hobby of collecting cards, check them out on Instagram. And big shout out to you guys as well. I love watching these broadcasts and definitely look forward to next week. Don't know what track it is, but looking forward to it.
Well, next week's going to be a little bit tougher than it was here tonight. We're heading to IRP, Lucas Oil Raceway, some short track action. So, best of luck, Larry, to that racetrack. And congratulations once again on winning here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that's going to be the 67 machine, your winner here tonight, Larry Yingling. As we go from victory lane, let's head to second place, where we get to talk to that of the 28 machine with that of the TrophySmack.com coverage all over that thing. It's the 28 of Brian P. Johnson. Brian, congratulations on second place. With how we were seeing this race kind of looking to the first half, were you expecting to come away with the second place finish here at the end?
No, definitely not. Um, Going into this race, we knew that it was going to be a very, very tight car. And usually when that happens, I have a bad habit of burning up my right front, which happened in the first run. Um, so I just hadn't quite figured out these next gen cars and how to save the right front. But so first run kind of fell back a little bit, and then I was kind of expecting this race to be a two stopper, pitting twice. But then nobody was pitting, and I was like, well, I guess we'll just keep running this down. And when we pitted, I had no idea how close we were to halfway, so I didn't even plan on having it a one stop. I just figured, okay, we're all staying out, and we're still gonna stop again. So I wasn't saving fuel at all. Um, and then I realized, I was like, wait a second. Larry and Zach and Stimp and all of them, they pitted after us, and the next lap was halfway. They're not gonna have to pit again. So I've got to start saving fuel. But I didn't want to lose too much pace, because that's what happened to Vinny there. He realized he was short on fuel, and so he backed way off and trying to save. And but I was like, no, I'm in second place right now. I want to try to finish in second, or maybe even third. Um, so just having to balance saving fuel and dealing with the lap traffic there for a section of that race. I'm not sure what was going on there. Some of them we had passed, and then they wanted to pass us back, and then they wanted to sit in front of us. So I don't know what was going on there, but it all worked out. And coming out of 4, coming to the white flag, my fuel pressure started dropping, and I was like, "Oh man, this is about as close as it gets." And started having to clutch it, and doing all the fuel saving strategies, and it sputtered just before the line. So I was like, "Well, I can't really do any better than that." So yeah, Larry looked good all night. He had some pretty decent pace, and luckily, I mean, I'm so glad we went green. That's amazing. No cautions. So that's pretty good race in my book.
Well, Brian, I mean, we go from the caution-free race here at Nashville, Lucas Oil next week, Twin Ring after that, and then Pocono. I mean, how you feeling? Second place here tonight, but how you feeling about those next 3 tracks coming up?
Lucas Oil, I have no idea about because I've never run a lap at that track. I think I have to buy it actually. So that will be interesting. That'll be a learning curve for me. Twin Ring Motegi, again, that's the oval I've never done. So 2 new tracks for me, and then Pocono. Usually had some pretty good pace at Pocono. So if the next 2 weeks go very poorly for me, maybe I can turn it around there.
Well, Brian, it still was an incredible run here tonight. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours. For the floor is now yours before we let you go.
Well, definitely, as always, got to thank you guys and everybody that tuned in. Hope that show was pretty good for you. Then got to thank all the league drivers that have come out tonight. Like I said, caution-free race. That's typically pretty rare nowadays. So that's awesome that we were able to do that. All the league admins over here that help run this thing, and then of course can't forget Roasted Gems Coffee, and especially for me, Trophy Smack. Partnership's going great. They visit Trophy Smack for all of your award needs. I know they had some special St. Patrick's Day stuff this weekend, so if you're of Irish descent, maybe check that out. But yeah, that's pretty much all for me.
Well, that is going to be the 28 machine. Brian P. Johnson coming away with second place in the 28. Congratulations, Brian, and good luck next week as it goes to that of IRP. And we weren't sure if we were going to be getting ourselves that of our third driver, who was going to be our spotlight driver, but it looks like we finally got him in here late. It's going to be 8th place finisher, that of Rich Jameson, as he was the second biggest mover of the night. And excited to get his thoughts on how tonight ran, as our spotlight driver is up with us. Rich, it's Sam and Trevor up at the booth. You got us?
Yeah, absolutely, man. How you doing?
We're doing good. I mean, you came away with the second biggest mover of the day, coming away up that of 15 positions, staying on the lead lap as this race went green all the way through. Man, how are you feeling after a performance like that today?
Man, I am stoked. This is the kind of racing I love. This is why I love being in this league. These guys, they tend to keep it clean. We get long green flag runs, and that's where I can kind of do better. Not so good on the shorter runs, and beating and banging and forcing my way in. The longer the run, I think the better I can do. And yeah, tonight was just cool. It worked out really good. I am stoked for this finish. P8 top 10 in WSSR, man. I'm very happy with that.
I mean, Rich, this is your second top 10 of the season. You got one back at Texas. Had a couple of rough races between then and here, but coming up, you got a couple of short tracks, a road course, super speedway, and then Pocono in there. I mean, how you feeling? Getting this top 10 going about the rest of the regular season.
Well, short tracks not my best, but anything can happen there. You can avoid all the wrecks, or you can be in all of them, or anywhere in between. Road courses, I tend to like my chances better there. I just need to minimize my mistakes. At Motegi last week, I had a couple too many mistakes, and that's what really cost me a better finish, what I think I'm capable of there. So the road courses, I just need to minimize mistakes. Short tracks, for me, it's kind of a crapshoot. So we'll do our best. We'll keep our head down and just get the best finish we can, and then just kind of keep doing that throughout the year and see where we end up.
We'll come and bring him back to tonight. I mean, we got to see you going through this field again, our second biggest mover of the night. How was it going through traffic and seeing the traffic kind of evolve throughout the night?
Yeah, I knew early that the right front was going to be a thing, right? The right front tire, at least for me, it always is. So I was actually a little surprised that I was able to get past as many cars as I did on that first stint. Try to back a little bit during those first, say, 10, and then maybe start pushing once I feel out the car. To be honest with you, these are the first laps I put on the track was in the practice session before. Had a busy day. I work all week out of town, so I did not get a chance to put in any practice until before here, before the session, the practice session before the race. So I was actually really surprised at once I figured some things out and whatnot, and then making my pace, and then it was pit stops and how they were going to fall, and I was surprised to see so many guys pit earlier before the halfway, because I was kind of looking and noticing, hey, we can make it on one stop if this thing goes green. So, and then towards the end there, a couple of cars dropping out, making some pits, gained me a few more spots. But I was really surprised, but happy that I was able to do that.
An incredible run for yourself, Rich. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any shout outs.
Yeah, I got to thank my my community at twitch.tv/Rich_Jameson86. They come in here, a few of them every week, and they just kind of hang out. I'm not very entertaining. I don't talk a lot because I'm so focused on the race, but they still hang out with me and cheer me on and stuff. So I really got to thank them. And anybody, else, of course, WSSR for putting on a league and actually really running a really great league. I really enjoyed my time here. And of course, you guys at Freaky Fast putting on the broadcast. I always go check it out after and see how it looked from that perspective, and always enjoy what I see.
Well, Rich, it was awesome to see you running up front, getting your second top 10. Congratulations on that, and good luck next week, because I think a lot of people are going to need it heading to that of IRP.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, good luck to everybody, and looking forward to trying to get the best finish I can there. Thanks, guys.
As that's going to be the 86 machine, Rich Jameson coming away with a top 10 finish for himself. That is our spotlight driver of tonight. As we go from interviews, let's take a look at our unofficial results here this evening, as Larry Yangling coming away with the victory for that of the 67, and just taking him 4 races this season, getting back in the swing of things, and he's back in the victory lane for that of a driver that's currently 3rd place in the overall rankings of wins in the WSSR ranking books. As that, Brian Johnson going to be coming away with 2nd. Zach Hall able to climb his way up to 3rd, with Brendan Colley, Vincent Sora, Aaron Krolick, Steven Stimpian going to be your top 7, with Rich Jameson in 8th, Ryan Bird in 9th, and Tom Sinjek finishing out your top 10.
And Norris will be in 11th, and then you look a little bit further down the field. I mean, just some guys having some decent runs down there, some guys not so much. Jonathan Cogswell was up 3 spots from where he started in 17th. James Hackworth Jr. up 6 spots, but then Tyler Dangler with pit road issues, not able to get the finish that he wanted down there in 22nd. Cedric Hunter with the connection issues he had, only able to come home with a couple of laps run in 24th. Thomas Walter, who we saw be a ping pong ball earlier on in the race, the first car out of the race in 25th. But Sam, this race is more the questions of what if. I mean, what if Tom Sinchek doesn't spin off a pit road in that 8 machine? Does he have a shot to win this? Is he able to save enough fuel to walk away with that? And then Vincent Sorek, I mean, if he had stayed out 1 or 2 more laps, would he have had a shot at winning this race as he comes away 5th? Sinchek with a great recovery up to 10th, having to make a 2nd pit stop for himself. But, clean and green all the way through, but still the lingering questions of what if for a couple of these drivers.
Yeah, a lot of what ifs and not a lot of wrecks. So we don't get to see a lot of carnage. So there wasn't a wreck to be the wall smack wreck of the race, but a wall smack moment of the race. You can get yourselves plenty of different moments from that of images you would like to get for a wall smack at Trophy Smack today, as it is a stainless steel high gloss work of art that is completely customizable, comes with that of the wall safety mark mounted system. Head on over to trophysmack.com, get yourself a wall smack today, as that 67 certainly gonna get that wall smack moment of the race. As Larry Yangling celebrates this victory, that is the end of our week, as we're going to take tomorrow off. We'll be right back to more coverage on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Start things off with our 4 races in a row, starting on Monday with ISRC Truck Series. Then on Tuesday, it's the Truck Series for the Full Send Racing Series. Then on Wednesday, it's the Wicked Racing League and their next-gen Cup cars. Then Thursday, going to see the ARCA machines on that of the Stars and Stripes. Friday's off, and we're right back here. Next week, it is the WSSR Roasted Gems Cup Series, IRP, Lucas Oil Raceway. It is going to be a short track of madness, chaos, and who can survive. And Trevor, that is going to be a wild race that we're heading into next week.
Yeah, a lot of beating and banging going to happen next week, and a lot of probably hurt feelings coming out of that race afterwards. But don't think we're going to see the same results here that we saw here tonight with a green flag race all the way through. But nonetheless, should be an exciting race to tune into next Saturday.
Cannot wait for next Saturday. But for tonight, thank you for joining with us. For myself, Sam Dyer, for Trevor Earhart, for Robert Moyer Jr., and everyone else here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, it was down to strategy. And here at Nashville Super Speedway, it was the 67 who came across the line, the victor here tonight. As Dadalier Yingling gets to celebrate his fun this evening, we are going to call it a night. Thank you for joining with us. See you on our next broadcast. It's going to be Monday night, the ISRC Truck Series. We'll see you then.